How can a business be profitable and yet still run out of cash? Well, the main reason I see for service businesses being under a lot of cash pressure is the long payment terms that get dictated by their corporate clients. I've seen them up to 120 days before, and you've still got that uncertainty of whether they're actually going to pay you on time or whether or not they're going to go overdue, and trying to balance that uncertainty against the obligation of paying your costs, which are on quite different schedules: monthly, quarterly, some are annually. You may be under installments for corporation tax. That uncertainty is really a tricky balance, particularly in times of growth. The main solution to this is to have a robust cash flow forecast process and to have it already embedded in your business as a normal habit and a normal behavior. You don't want to be going into a really tight spot of cash with a brand new model and a brand new process that you haven't got that reassurance and track record with. Xero does actually have a cash flow function within its new business analytics function. However, for me personally, I do feel like it's not quite at that stage where it's a viable substitute for having one in Excel or a specific cash flow forecast software package. So personally, I do recommend that you still hold your cash flow outside of Xero. Now, what you need from your cash flow forecast is, first of all, you need it to be covering at least a quarter in advance. So something like a 4-month period or 17-week period, something that's giving you visibility of the whole quarter ahead of you, because a lot of chunky costs can come in quarterly. VAT, rent, you may be under corporation tax installments, and you don't want to get surprise costs cropping up. You also need it to be dynamic so that you can tweak things and move things and model scenarios. For example, if you then find out that the payment date of a large invoice has now been confirmed, you can see what that's doing to your cash flow and your bank balance in the months coming up. You also need that if you've got multiple currencies and multiple currency bank accounts, again, you need to have that captured in your cash flow forecast, and it needs to cover all currencies so that you're getting a nice holistic view of all the cash in your business. Alongside having the cash flow forecast, there are a few other sort of mitigating actions which you can take into consideration to try and maximize the amount of cash you're holding within your business. Firstly, I would say think about invoice schedules when you're setting up new projects or working with new clients. What can you do to sort of front load them? Can you have an installment in advance or an installment on receipt of the purchase order? Or trying to match invoice installments to project milestones. Do what you can to front load it. I know this can depend on client trust and length of relationship, etc., but it's one to bear in mind. Another one to think about is if you have any sort of joint venture arrangements with another agency, think about how they're structured, who's billing the client, how that all works, because you don't want to leave yourself out of pocket if you're having to wait for payment but still having to pay another agency. So again, just bear that in mind. And then another one, which sounds obvious, but is keeping an eye on your overdue debtors, which are held here in Xero. They're easy to creep up, and they need time, they need effort, they need hassle. But just a reminder to keep on it to try and maximize the cash that you've got sitting in your own bank account. That always helps. If any of the scenarios that we've talked about today are feeling familiar, maybe it's a sign that you're outgrowing the bookkeeping support alone, and maybe you're needing more financial expertise to help you make meaningful decisions from your finances. I'll put a link in the comments below in case you'd like to find out any more about the sort of support that I could offer.